There are two positions on the question of should I use a trans person's pronouns if they ask me to or not. There's pronoun hospitality, which says yes, I will use their pronouns. There's pronoun avoidance, which says no, I won't use their pronouns. I want to go a little more into each of those views, but let me just get my view out front. My view is that there is both a time to practice pronoun hospitality and a time to practice pronoun avoidance. That using a trans person's pronouns shouldn't just be an automatic no, it should be a tool in our tool belt that we use when the Holy Spirit asks us to. Now, for those that would say no, we ought to never use a trans person's pronouns, the pronoun avoidance position. Typically, the arguments against using a trans person's pronouns go like this. One, it's lying, because I'm not telling the truth to them. Two, it's giving power to a destructive ideology. And three, it's feeding a person's delusion, is what it typically said. Now, calling pronoun hospitality lying, it seems harsh and a little bit of a disconnect for me. You know, from a historic Christian perspective, lying has usually been understood as intentional deceit. So like saying something untrue on accident or saying something untrue without the intention of deceiving is not typically viewed or called lying. So there's probably more to flesh out there, but I think it's too simplistic to say pronoun hospitality is lying to a trans person. That's my view. Now, I think the best argument from the pronoun avoidance camp is the comment about ideology. I do think that some of the intellectuals who invented a lot of the constructs that exist in the trans conversation, I think they did start encouraging a change in pronouns so as to perpetuate a worldview shift. Which is why I don't say that we always should practice pronoun hospitality. You know, I think there are times, especially when you're dealing with, like if you're a parent and you have a young, especially a younger teenager. There's been research and books written, a great one is Irreversible Damage, that says that when a parent immediately goes along with a change in pronouns, it can actually result in that young person's gender dysphoria lasting longer than it would have. Because the majority of young teenagers have their dysphoria resolved by a certain age. So anyways, I don't have time to go into that more. But I think sometimes it's the right move not to use pronoun hospitality. But like imagine if you start a new job and you meet a coworker who's not a Christian and is desperately broken and needs Jesus. And they say, can you please call me by these pronouns? And you immediately say, no, I can't. You just cut off all potential relationship with them. There's a very low chance that you're going to be able to impact them with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And, you know, when we look at how Jesus approached sinners, I think we actually see the hospitality side. We see both sides, but I think we see the hospitality side. Let's look at this. This is from Luke 15. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, this fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them. You know why they were grumbling? Because in this day and time, sharing a table with someone was equivalent to endorsing their behavior. Sharing a table with someone was equivalent to saying, I agree with you on everything. It's just how it was. Now, of course, Jesus wasn't endorsing their behavior, and Jesus wasn't agreeing with everything that they did and believed, but what he was doing was meeting them where they were. Guess what God did in the person of Jesus coming to the earth? Met broken humanity where it was by embodying, incarnating humanity. God is a God who leaves the 99 and comes to the one, walks right up to the center of their brokenness and walks them out. And I actually think when we practice pronoun hospitality and we maybe say things that we don't feel comfortable with as a tool to minister the love and heart of God to someone, we are like Jesus leaving the 99 for the one. We are like Jesus sitting at the table of sinners and prostitutes and tax collectors, even when everyone in his day would have looked at that with repulsion. That's my view and my opinion. I don't expect everybody in here to agree with me on that, but I would just ask you to consider it. Maybe even ask Jesus about it. Lastly, I think when we take an approach of hospitality, again, as a tool, not like universally, but as a tool, I think we acknowledge that human beings experience change as a journey. How many of us, when we think about major transformative moments with God that we've had, can say that it happened like in an instant? There are definitely times where God does that, but often what God does is he changes us over a journey. And to end, let me share one more testimony from Preston Sprinkle's book. This is a biological man who was living as a trans woman, but then transitioned back to a biological man. The thing that brought me to an acceptance of biblical masculinity was not a poignantly laid out exegetical argument against transsexuality, nor a fire and brimstone diatribe against homosexuality, but a man who gave me the space to speak about my desires openly and let me know he and God loved me nevertheless.